My name is Jess. I have a lot of houseplants, and I'm here today to tell you about some of them at least. Plants here with me today. I'm gonna go from left to right. So here we have a croton. It's a big, beautiful baby. It's a tropical plant, and they grow kind of like trees. So if you've noticed down here, it's got a really barky stem, and then up towards the top it's a little bit softer. And that just, toughens up with age as the plant grows. Eventually, once they mature, they flower. They have really strange looking flowers, but they flower nonetheless. They have beautiful leaves, and there's a ton of different varieties. This one it almost looks like lava on the leaves. There's ones that have narrower leaves and they have just green and yellow on them. There's some that are all green, but this is the one that I have. It's pretty easy to take care of. There's definitely mixed camps on whether they're picky or if they're, easy to get along with as a plant. I've never had any issues with mine, at least. It just like sitting in a window, getting watered every couple of weeks, and normal stuff. Next on our list is going to be this little guy. This is my newest plant. It's called a ZZ plant. There are a few different varieties of this guy as well. This is just your bog standard ZZ. There's also really dark, they're almost navy blue colored ones that are called Raven ZZs. These guys are very easy to take care of. They're not temperamental by any means, and they grow differently than most other plants. They don't really have roots down in them. They have a rhizome, which is like a big chunky tuber. Ginger, for example, is a rhizome, and it grows in the ground in the big old clumps that you can see it in at the grocery store. So this guy's root system kind of looks like ginger, and it stays on the ground and then sends up new shoots with all these leaves on it, one at a time. This guy likes having its soil kept relatively moist, not soggy by any means, but it's nice to keep the top layer of soil damp and not let it fully dry out. And it also likes being kept pretty near a window. This one here is one of my favorite plants, actually. This is a big beauty. It's my Marble Queen pothos. The pothos is one of the most popular houseplants. You may not have seen one that looks like this, but there's about a dozen different varieties of them. There's some with all green leaves, some with little flecks of green and white like this one. There's some that have big globs of white, and there's some that have yellow in them. But they're all relatively easy to take care of. They've all got pretty similar care needs. They're a tropical plant, so they like having moist soil, kind of like the ZZ plant. They like being near a window, but if they get too far from light, they will, because they're long and trailing and viney, will grow towards it and, send out as many shoots as they possibly can to get nearer to the sunlight. They're really beautiful. They get nice and big and full, and they grow like weeds, so the vines go everywhere. Yeah, they're beautiful. This is one of my favorite plants for sure.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So with that type of plant, do you cut it, or do you just let it keep growing?
So you can. That's actually a good thing to talk about with this plant specifically. So if you find your plant is getting really unruly and you don't like the way it looks a little shaggy, feel free to trim it, give it a haircut. The cool thing with a pothos, and there's a few other different types of vining plants like ivies this would work really well with as well. You can cut it off just about where a leaf would come out on the stem. Where the leaf actually leaves the main stem is called a node. And you can stick that in some water let roots grow on it for a couple of weeks. And once the roots are about 2 inches long, you can put it back in the soil with the mom plant, for example, to make it really dense and bushy in the top of the pot, or you can put it in another pot and start a whole brand new plant with it. And then you have 2 plants for the price of 1. This guy lends really well, and all pothos lend really well to being chopped up and broken into smaller pieces because they do grow so quickly. So it's a really fun thing to branch into once you're more comfortable with taking care of your plants as well. Yeah.
Awesome.
So the last guy on our list is going to be the snake plant. Its most common name is mother-in-law's tongue, because it has very long, pointy stakes that come out of it that kind of look like the barbed tongue of your mother-in-law. So the stereotype goes, at least. So these guys really like being tightly packed into a pot. So if you see the ZZ, for example, there's a lot of soil around the edge of it. The pothos as well, there's a lot of space in between the pieces of plant that are coming directly out of the soil. But if you look at the snake plant, there's next to no space around the edge of the plant where there's soil. And that's because snake plants like being what is called root bound, or a little bit at least, which is where they benefit really well from being in a smaller pot that condenses their root system together. And when they're in that sort of an environment, they really thrive. So this guy I've had for years now. It was one of the first plants I ever got. It's been with me through thick and thin, and it's nice and big and beautiful. I think sometime in the next year I'm going to upsize the pot so it can shoot out even more growth. These guys are the best beginner plant, I'd like to say. They're super easy to take care of. They thrive on neglect, really. They don't enjoy having super wet soil, so you can, forget to water it for a couple of weeks and it'll be perfectly okay. I honestly wouldn't even water it more than once every 2 weeks. It's okay for the top of the soil to be dried out. And when they grow super duper fast. This one at least, there's tons of different varieties of snake plants. It puts out chunks of growth at a time. So right here, that's a new piece of growth that came out this year, and it's in like one clump all together. This one, you've got the same thing going on. Instead of one individual piece at a time coming out, you get like 4 or 5 in the one go. But yeah, it's a fantastic beginner plant. They're really striking as well. There's a lot of visual appeal, as goes with all of these, but this one is really a showstopper, that's for sure. Got a little friend joining me for the last little segment of what we're going to talk about, which is plants and pets. They don't always mix together. Unfortunately, a lot of plants can be really detrimental to your pet's health. Calla lilies, for example, are notoriously poisonous. Thankfully, these plants are not, they're only bad if they're ingested. So I'm gonna keep an eye on Smokey and nothing bad is gonna happen to her. She'll be a-okay. But there are certain plants that you really should keep out of your house for the sake of your furry friends. Thankfully, there are a wide variety of plants that are pet safe, and a lot of them are really easy to take care of. A lot of them are really easy to get your hands on as well. So money trees, you can usually get those at any grocery store, really. They're perfectly pet safe. Prayer plants as well, African violets, and spider plants as well, which were, a big hit in the 70s. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye, and I'm going to let Smokey say goodbye as well. No? Do you want to say goodbye? Say goodbye to everyone at home, little one. Maybe not. All right. Well, with that, I'll leave you guys to it, and hopefully you've found some inspiration. You're ready to buy your first houseplant and brings a little bit of color and lushness into your home. And with that, I leave you. Goodbye.